Thank you, Joyce. And it was really such a great testimony that Andrea and Joyce gave. So it's really them coming to a place where they recognize and they hear the voice of the Lord and they are able to apply it. And that is what we are learning today. So prayer is really us hearing from the Lord and declaring into the atmosphere what God wants for us. So in Luke, it says that Lord teach us to pray, and that is what we are going through today. So you may ask, why pray? Why do I have to pray? Since God is all-powerful and He can certainly help me. Well, talking to God is a privilege. Everyone say privilege. So prayer is entering into relationship with God. It's a relationship so that we can determine His will in the matter and call forth His will into existence upon the earth. And that is how good prayer is. So there is a sustained power in His word. So we are going to look at the template where Jesus have given us the outline in the Lord's Prayer. So this is where Jesus taught us how to pray. So, and it's also us coming to a place of understanding Matthew 16, where we bind what has been bound in heaven, and we loose on earth what has been loosed in heaven. And then we're going to see God's rule manifested on earth. So we will come to a place where we need to understand what's the difference between declaration, decree, and intercession, so that we can effectively manifest God's rule on earth. So as far back as Genesis, it is clear that God's purpose for prayer was a two-way communication with Jehovah. So you don't just pray, then you don't expect the other end to answer you. So it's just like you having a phone call, you are expecting the other person to answer back. So this is the same way that it is a two-way communication. So in the first chapters of Genesis, we get the picture of God and Adam and Eve walking in the cool of day. So they have that communion. They have that open interaction between God and His children. So God longs for communion with us. So in the same way, God took a rib from Adam's side to make a helper for him. He took something out of Himself and placed it within each one of us. So in Ecclesiastes 3, he says that God put eternity in man's heart. He has that purpose. He has that essence that He has put into us so that He can fill all this lifetime with wonder, but also to give our existence joy and meaning into eternity with God. So, but we know that in Genesis, Adam and Eve succumbed to the lie of the serpent, and they took the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that's when that continuous conversation with God was broken. And God even had to come out and look for them. Where are you? So it really points to the fact that God longs for a communion with us. So there is a conversation that has been going on before this whole universe was even created. So it is the dialogue that is built into the very fabric of our DNA. So, but then you'll be asking, so how do I get to that place? How do I get from zero to declaring the will of the Lord? So there is a process, there is a growth process that God is bringing us into. So we see all the biblical stories where we have the patriarch in the Bibles, in the Old Testaments, but do you know that before these heroes of faith were generals, they were just common foot soldiers like you and me. So we have to start from somewhere. So what did they do to become friends of God like the patriarch of the Old Testament and those in the book of Acts who turned the world upside down? Don't you want to turn the world upside down? Yeah, so how do we then walk again like Adam and Eve, continually in conversation with the Father of all creation back in the Garden of Eden? So we first must learn to do battle in the trenches of our own personal life and the world that it touch. So what's trenches? So this is a picture of the trenches in the World War I. So we are in a time of warfare. So it's not a physical warfare that we are in, but it is a spiritual warfare that we are in. So we have to learn to develop that resistance and to know how to do battle in the trenches of our own personal life before we can even begin to touch the world. So God told Jeremiah, if you have raced with men on foot and they have wearied you, how will you compete with horses? So there comes a point where if this is a decade where we are praying and declaring for the great transference of wealth, but if you can't even pray for finances, your own finances to come in place, how are you going to expect to have that kind of authority and level of faith to declare the finances into the kingdom of God? So we don't talk so big on the finances, but then it's like we are not praying for a building for RTRC. So, but if we can't even make ends meet with our declaration, how are we gonna declare for the finances to supernaturally come into our own kingdom? And those of you who have the gift of healing, if we can't even pray for our own healing, how are you expecting to be able to come to a place where you are able to impart that healing to other people? So we have to learn to do battle in the trenches of our own personal life and the world that it touches before we become heroes of faith. So you will never hear the strategies of heaven for your nation until you know how to hear the plans and purposes of heaven for your life. It is crucial that we understand prayer is a two-way communication. We don't just pray and expect to hear nothing. We have to discern and hear the will of God in that situation so that we can begin to call it forth onto earth. So all this starts with you in your prayer closet. So I'm not going to give you a dimension of prayer closet. You can do it yourself. But it is really a process that starts with you at the place of intimacy. You lay down your heart. You lay down your request before the throne of heaven every day. It is an everyday process with all of us. So this is a picture of John Wesley's prayer closet. So if you have a new house and you are thinking to design it, feel free to do that. But it's really you having that place of intimacy. So it can be somewhere that you sleep. Just like Jacob, he slept at a place of battle and then he saw the ladder. So you want to have that place inside your own personal space, your room, your house, wherever it is. So you can go to that continuous spot, but don't be religious about it that you only have to be there. But there can come to a place where you develop such an intimacy with the Lord and you have that open environment over you that you are able to hear very clearly from the Lord. So success is determined by one's ability to know how to pray and get direction from heaven. So John 15, it says that if you abide in me and my words abide in you. The word abide here means if we obey the word of the Lord. So if we obey the word of the Lord and we ask what we desire, and it shall be done for you. So by this my Father is glorified, and that you bear much fruit, so you will be my disciples. So God's word never changes. Everyone say, never changes. So in Psalm 119, it says, your word, O Lord, is eternal. His word has supernatural power. So Hebrews 4 tells us that the word of the Lord is living and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. So if we want to come to a place of prayer, we have to know the word of the Lord. So Apostle Simon has taught a couple of weeks back on the power of the word. So today we're going to learn the power of the spoken word. We have to be able to declare it into the atmosphere. So there is supernatural power in the Lord's word. So we are in a war over the manifestations of God's covenant blessings in the earth, in the church, in the nations, and in your life. We are at war. So we have to be able to pull down that heavenly strategies so that we can see God's covenant blessing in the earth, in our church, in our nations, in our life. So what's the source code then? So have you all played games before? This is Super Mario. So every kid loves to play games. So it's like, have you ever wondered what's going on behind that computer games? So there's thousands of source computer codes. It's an invisible realm made out of thousands of lines of computer code. So everything that took place in the game is in accordance with the source code. So if there's something wrong with the source code, do you think the game can function? No. So in the same way, we have to know what is the source code of the universe, which is the Bible. So when God acts in the earth realm, it is always in accordance with His word. So therefore, we have to hear the will of God because it is in accordance to His word. So 1 Kings 12, it says that this was spoken to fulfill the word the Lord has spoken. While we have great freedom to choose, it is also true that nothing can violate that source code. So everything in the visible realm takes place in accordance with God's decree word. So Hebrews 1:3 tells us that He sustains all things. How many things? All things. He sustains all things by the word of His power. So there is that fulfillment that God is wanting to see. God's highest priority is to see that the promises of His word are fulfilled, regardless of any sort of promises. But the promises of His word, He wants to see it fulfilled. That means the promises that God has spoken over your life, He wants to see it fulfilled. The promises that God has spoken over the nation, He wants to see it fulfilled. The promises of His word that is spoken over all creation, He wants to see them fulfilled on earth. So that's God's priority. The scriptures must be fulfilled. We know that in Mark 14. I am, the Lord is watching to see that His words is fulfilled. So God has committed Himself to His word. His actions are determined by His word. So if we want to walk in God's blessing, we must know the word. So in the Bible, we know that whenever the Lord used the word know, it is coming to a place of intimacy. It's just like how Abraham knew Sarah. It's coming to a place of intimacy that is only enjoyed between a husband and wife. But we are the bride of God, so we have to come to a place of intimacy to know His word. God's word is the operating manual for God's covenant. So it tells us what God expects of us. How can we please Him? How can we honor Him? How can we walk with Him? And what we can then expect from Him. His covenant promises. Don't you all want His promises? So walk and know His word. So let's look at the Lord's Prayer. So Jesus manages His entire schedule around His prayer time and not His prayer around all other things that He do. So He started off His day by prayer. So there's something in the way that Jesus prayed that God answers. But you'll be thinking, but God is man. But God is God. Jesus is God. But Jesus is 100% man and 100% God on earth. So He has shown us that template. So there is something in the way that Jesus prayed that God answers. So we can learn from the prototype. So now it came to pass as He was praying in a certain place, when He sees that one of His disciples said to Him, Lord, teach us to pray, as John also taught his disciples. At this point of time, they have seen Jesus perform so many miracles, and yet they didn't ask Jesus, Lord, how do you turn the water into wine? But they asked Him, Lord, teach us to pray. So let's recite the Lord's Prayer together. I'm sure you are all familiar. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. And forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. So I'm sure you are all familiar. So do we use it often? So the Lord's Prayer can be broken down into two parts. So the first part, if you have noticed, it's all about God and His kingdom. So we have to come to a place where we know what is His will for His kingdom first, before we can begin to plug into heaven's provision for ourselves, for our today. So it's about God first, seek first the kingdom of the Lord, and all things shall be added unto you. So that is the template that the Lord has given to us. So our Father in heaven, our Father, there is a spiritual revolution in those words. So Jesus didn't teach His disciples to start their prayers by, "Oh God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob." So how many of you know Adam? So imagine Adam praying, "Oh God of Stephen, Simon, and Arden." No. But the Lord Jesus has taught us to pray, "Our Father." We don't have to use all the fanciful words and say, "Oh, maker of heaven and earth. Oh, great Spirit who sees all and knows all." But it is our Father. There is that spiritual revolution in those words, that we know our Father and we know and hear what He wants for us as His children. So Romans 8 tells us that you receive the Spirit of adoption by whom we cried out, "Abba, Father." So everyone say, "Abba, Father." Oops. It is what Jesus prayed in the garden, that He asked He might not have to suffer the cross in Mark 14 and 36. "Abba, Father, everything is possible. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." He approached Father first by calling out, "Abba, Father." Even in a place of distress and he's just wanting to push through, he calls out, "Abba, Father" first. Not his will, but God's will. He was calling on the intimate relationship he shared with his daddy, while he's also submitting to the authority of the head of his household, who was his father. So by instructing us to pray, "Our Father," Jesus taught us that we have the same right, that same place to go to God in this same capacity. So, but when we pray, "Hallowed be your name," it is an act of worship. We know our Father, but we also have to come to a place of worshiping the Lord. So it's really saying, when we say, "Hallowed be your name," it is saying, may every request that follows in this prayer be for your glory and your glory alone. So Matthew 21 tells us that whatever things you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive. So the key is believing. And whatever you ask in my name, that I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. So we can ask whatever that we want, and we will receive what we seek if we ask believing in Jesus' name, abiding in Him, His word abiding in us, and it's according to His will. So if we ask not amiss, so meaning we don't ask anything for our own personal gain, for the wrong motives, that we may spend it on our pleasure. So we have talked about what's the key to maintain this continual conversation, so all of us were caught in the Spirit. So we walk in Spirit to maintain the attitude of worship in every step of our day. So 1 Thessalonians 5 tells us that we are to rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and in everything give thanks. For this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. So being in a continual attitude of rejoicing is the entrance into prayer. So I'm gonna use one circular example. How many of you watched Crash Landing on You? So do you notice that the lead actress actually gave the lead actor a plant, and in return the guy also gave him the same plant, and then what did she have to do? She has to be thankful, 10 things to be thankful for. So, but we don't thank for those sort of things, but then we can actually bring that sort of attitude into our prayer life. So we can thank God for the blessings that He has given us. So we are to count our blessings. So that is us being in a continual attitude of rejoicing so that we can gain an entrance into prayer. So being grateful and filled with thanksgiving is how we come out of it. So we go in rejoicing and we come out grateful and filled with thanksgiving. So that's the attitude that we need to bring to prayer. Your kingdom come. So God's kingdom is the vision of what things on this earth should really look like. So we all hear the terms, we are now entering into new normal. So, but business, the world's business as usual, where we see corruption, exploitation, lack in one area while there's gross overconsumption in another, that is not God's way of doing things. We are entering into that new normal. So we have to learn what is God's new normal for us. So it is time we plug into the things of the Spirit and get serious about doing the impossible. So let's look at the authority as the ecclesia that we have in Matthew 16. So let's read this together, Matthew 16. And I say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades, death, will not overpower it by preventing the resurrection of the Christ. I will give you the keys, authority of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind, forbid, declare to be improper and unlawful on earth will have already been bound in heaven. And whatever you loose, permit, declare lawful on earth will have already been loosed in heaven. So this version is being used because it really gives us that picture where what we bind on earth has to be what that has been bound in heaven, and what we loose on earth will have already been loosed in heaven. So we have been given that keys, meaning we have been given that authority of the kingdom so that we can allow or disallow the things on earth. We can allow God's purposes and will on earth. Then we can disallow the devil's scheme on earth. So that's the key, that's the authority that the Lord has given us. So we are really shifting from petitioning to proclamation. So petition is saying that you will make your prayer to Him and He will hear you. But when we engage in proclamation as that in Matthew 16, we are actually going into the mode of declaration with the authority of God. That's something we know to be the will of God will happen on earth. So that's when we engage in proclamation. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So it's really like when Moses was on the banks of the Red Sea and God said to him, "Why do you cry to me? Lift out your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it." So God told Moses to stop his petitioning and to move to proclamation. So we are to do that as well. We are really calling forth the will of God upon the earth. So here we are not so much of referring to speaking to God, but rather we are speaking for God. There's a difference between speaking to God and speaking for God. So we are not asking God to do something. Rather, we are using the authority that God has given us to command something to be done. So we are the sons of God. So whatever authority that our Papa has got, so we have access to it too. So we have to learn to tap into that authority to proclaim His will on earth. So in order to proclaim into being the will of God, it is necessary to first hear from God. So you cannot be going there and you can't hear anything at all. So how do you know the will of God? We have to be able to hear from God. We are His children, therefore we can hear His voice. So prayer is not one way, as many suppose. It is two-way. So we speak to God, and He also speaks to us. So proclamation is only effective if we are proclaiming the will of God for that situation. So it's not just name it, claim it. So we have to know what is the will of God so that we can declare into the atmosphere. So the higher the level of prayer, the more proclamation rather than petition is called for. So give us today our daily bread. So we go from plugging into eternity to what we will do, what we will each do today. So the first priority of today will always be our physical provision. Give us this day our daily bread. So what's the most valuable commodity as a human being on earth? Aircon? Someone must be hot. So what's the most valuable commodity on earth? Have a guess? Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching? Or what? Or time? So time. Time is the most valuable commodity as a human being on earth. So let's look at Matthew effect. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. So have you ever put off doing something? I'll wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. So do you come to a place where you have to do certain things in the moment and yet you put it off? So we are wasting the most valuable commodity here for ourselves. We are wasting our time here. So Apostle Chuck has said, if we start something and we do not get to the end of it, we do not receive the anointing of resistance and celebration that will allow us to go into the new phase of life. So do you want to go into that new season, or are you want to bringing the old reproach of the past? So we have to have that resistance built out in us. We have to see to it that we finish off certain things that the Lord has called us to start. Otherwise, we are wasting away the time. Otherwise, how do we develop more in the Lord? From him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. So if we do not keep on building that prayer life, how are we going to see to end the will of God manifest on earth? So therefore, we have to learn the process of finishing. Everyone say finishing. So procrastination occurs when we go against our own better judgment and do one thing that we know we should do another. That's procrastination. That is putting off doing the things. So it is an act of delaying or postponing a task. So this act of delaying will keep us from moving through and following through and entering the next phase of your life. So we have to make full use of our time. So the point is, the greatest value of our lives comes from what we do with our time. And the only time we really have control over is the current moment. So we have to live in the moment and make full use of our moment. So God has an order of restoration, prosperity, and breakthrough. So He wants us to be fully restored in the moment. He wants our bloodline to come out into fullness so that prosperity and breakthrough can occur. So there is no such thing as overnight successes. You see some people suddenly bloom into like what seemingly seemed to be an overnight success. They put so much effort at the back. There's a lot of back-end effort that they put in. So only people whose preparation meet God-given opportunity that they are going to experience success. So do you want to experience success? Learn to make full use of God-given opportunity. While the opportunities and favor in our lives come from the Lord, the preparation is entirely up to us. How you want to make use of your time. So let's look at this biblical example from 2 Kings. So Elisha said to Joash, take the arrows. So then he told the king of Israel, strike the ground. So he struck 3 times and stopped. We would think that, well, he has already done 3 times. But the man of God was angry with him and he said, you should have struck 5 or 6 times. Then you have struck Syria till you have destroyed it. But now you will only strike Syria 3 times. What seemed to be something that is him pressing on and doing it, it's like, I'll just do it then. I mean, since the man of the Lord told me to do it. But he didn't continue through. He didn't persist through. So by divine prophecy, an opportunity to destroy Israel's enemies was placed into King Joash's hand. Symbolically, he was to strike the ground with his arrows as he planned to strike Syria. Have you come to a place of warfare and you're like, just strike 3 times, that's it? But you have not heard the Lord tell you to stop striking. So you have to continue striking. So Joash's obedience here was just half-hearted. So rather than passionately cutting great gashes into the earth with his arrows until the prophet told him to stop, he just poked aimlessly. He poked 3 times and then stopped. Okay, I finished my job. That's it. Bye-bye. Well, but the man of God was angry with him. He had the opportunity to see his nation delivered from its enemy, but his own lazy, comfort, softened nature got in his way. Proverbs 22 tells us that, do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings. Do we want to stand before kings? Or do we want to just stand before unknown men? Excel in our work. Excel in our work. What do we use with our time to excel with our work? In our work. So no matter how much or how little Apostle Paul had, he could look at it and say, this is enough to do what God has called me to do. Sometimes we think, oh, we need all the resources, all the best resources on earth, only then we can do it. What are we doing with the little that the Lord has given us? What are we doing with the time that the Lord has given us? With the resources, with the anointing that He has given us. Press through, so that you can gather that resistance that you need to go into the next decade and next season. So forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Matthew 11, therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you have received them, and you will have them. And whatever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive him, that your Father in heaven may also forgive you your trespasses. So standing in forgiveness is a very important key so that we can receive whatever things we ask. Forgiving your debtors as God has forgiven you is 1 Corinthians 13, the great love chapter in action. Show love to other people. Do everything out of love. We have to learn to let go of the bitterness that is operating in our lives. We have to learn to forgive people because that is what the Lord is saying. Do you want to receive what you have asked for? Forgive. Forgive. Then the Lord in heaven may also have forgiven you your trespasses. So the last portion, do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. So the Greek term for sin literally means to miss the mark, to wander from the path of rightness and honor, to do wrong or go wrong. So this term, sin, has often been used in reference to archery as a means of measuring how much the shooter have missed the bullseye or how short of the target the arrow fell. So this is that. So if you don't hit the bullseye, you have missed the mark, you have sinned. That is the term in archery. So often all the time we have thought of sin as something so big, like black, bloated and stuff. So we only associate it with great transgression, which in a way is a self-justification. But sin is not just about great moral failure. It is about the more general failure of fulfilling our assignment and mission from the Lord. If we don't complete the task, we have missed the mark. So when the Lord has called us good and faithful servant, He's really saying that sometimes, yeah, we do miss the mark along the way, but we completed it. Then the Lord is going to call us good and faithful servant. It's not because how great you did, how bad you did, but you see to it that there's that completion to the assignment that the Lord has given you. And then the Lord is going to call you good and faithful servant. So that is what the Lord has teach us. So in Hebrews 12, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us. And let us run with endurance. Everyone say, run with endurance. The race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. And because Jesus lived without sin, we have access to the forgiveness of our sins, and therefore we have the ability to run the race God has set before us, unencumbered by the entanglements. So meaning we don't have any burdens that is following us around. We are free from that. And we are not twisted or get caught in. So as we ask for that fresh forgiveness every day, don't go into the mode of self-justification. Don't go into the mode of self-pity, but ask for that fresh forgiveness every day, be it for yourself or for other people. And then we determine, every day we make a choice to live in proactive forgiveness so that we do not allow these distractions, selfishness, poor self-control, foolish decisions, or any other sin that keep us from the mark that God has set for us. As you operate in faith prayer, we want to see that faith will grow as well. The stretch of our faith in our lives should never really change. As we grow in God, the capacity of what we can accomplish in God should grow as well. So, how big is your engine? How big is your capacity? How big is your faith? Do you want to just cycle, thinking that, well, very fast, I can get to my destination, but someone else's comes in sports car? Do you think you're still fast if you're just riding a bicycle? So it's really the more you do, the capacity will grow. Your capacity will grow the more you do. In other words, if you don't do, your capacity is not going to grow. Do you want to grow, continue growing from the racing car that you see here? How big is your CC? How big is your engine? Or do you want to fly away? So the more you do, the capacity is going to grow. So as our faith grows, the magnitude of our dreams and what we are seeking God to do should grow too. The dream capacity should grow. So in this way, our faith is constantly reaching out for things that are In this way, our faith is constantly reaching out for things that are just beyond our natural ability to grasp them. We have to constantly stretch our faith, constantly reach out to that dreams that seems to be far away, so that we can continue to grow in our capacity. What is this decade about? What's the Hebrew word? Pay. So it is a season to speak. So we have moved from a season to see to a season to speak. Pay. So it is a season to understand the power of the spoken word. Every word God speaks has power. So in Psalm 107, it says, He sent His word and healed them. The Lord sent His word and healed them. Matthew 8, speak the word and my servant shall be healed. Do you see the power of the spoken word? Speak the word and my servant shall be healed. So God wants you to know that the powers that you speak have power as well. In Genesis 1, we are coming into that Genesis moment where God spoke and the world was created. When God speaks, His words have power. But do you know, when you speak God's word, your words that have spoken come out from your mouth have power as well. There is power in the spoken words that the Lord has put in our mouth. So this is the season to make faith declarations. Everyone say faith declarations. So this is the season that we declare what the Lord has said over key situations. Our God has the final say. Our God has His will and purposes, has goodness that He wants to pour down on earth. But are we speaking out His words? There is power in the spoken words. And the Lord is saying in Jeremiah, I am on watch to carry out my word. God is on watch to carry out my words. So why are we not speaking out His word? This is a decade of Judah arising with a voice of decree. So we have to learn to decree His goodness, His will on earth as it is in heaven. The voice of our testimony is going to be the one that is overcoming the enemy. Speak His word. Speak His word. There is that power in the words of the Lord. So as you speak God's decree, principalities will be uprooted, power structures will be torn down, institutions will be destroyed, human rulers will be overthrown, God's kingdom will be built out. Do we want to see God's kingdom built out? Speak God's decree. God's purposes will be established. So when we declare what God is saying, expect a change in the atmosphere. Expect a change in the atmosphere that reflects heavenly atmosphere. Learn the power of the spoken word. You don't know how to pray? Go back to His word. Learn the power of the spoken word. Set a guard on our mouth. If you have nothing good to say, don't talk. You rather keep it to yourself than speaking it into the atmosphere and see things coming, the negative ways that I dread this, I don't want to see this coming. Are you speaking that word that glorifies the Lord? So don't give voice to unbelief. Don't murmur and complain. This is not a time for us to continue murmuring and complaining. Do we want to move from the best place in Egypt and pass through the journey? Do we want to get stuck in wilderness, or do we want to get into that promised land? Don't murmur and complain. Instead, be careful to declare what the Lord has said. Claim His promises. Thank Him by faith that He will do what He has said. So what are we to do? Let's recap this. Declare what the Lord has said. Claim His promises. Thank Him by faith that He will do what He has said. As you speak God's word into atmosphere, you will see God's rule in the earth. So God speaks through the Lord's Prayer. Let's look a bit at the declaration and decree. What's the difference? So Jesus used this section as a declaration. Matthew 6, this then is how you should pray. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So Elijah declared that it would not rain, and it didn't rain again until Elijah said so. Well, how good it is. So now you have seen declaration. Those are the examples of declarations. How does a decree differ from declaration? A decree means to judge. Everyone say judge. So this means that judgment or an award on an umpire in a case submitted to him. So meaning a court decision has been made. The judge have to come to a place of making decision at the end of court case. So it is an edict. It is an official order or proclamation issued by a person in authority. So that law order by a superior authority as a rule to govern inferiors can be issued. So it is an edict. So meaning to say the difference between declaration and decree is where one, you can declare the will of the Lord, but to decree, you have to have authority in the sphere. Learn to do the battle in your own personal trenches so that your sphere is going to expand, so that your authority is going to expand, so that you can get into that mode of decree that the Lord has called you to do over the sphere that He has set for you, over the boundaries that He has set for you. So kings all through the Bibles, whether they are good or bad, they made decrees. So these decrees could not, in most cases, be overturned. So once the sealing wax has been applied, the seal of the king has been stamped, it was the law of the land. That's how authoritative a decree is. So let's look at the king's edict on behalf of the Jews in the book of Esther. So King Xerxes replied to Queen Esther and to Mordecai the Jew, because Haman attacked the Jews, I've given his estate to Esther, and they have impaled him on the pole he set up. Now write another decree in the king's name, in behalf of the Jews, as seems best to you, and seal it with the king's signet ring. For no document written in the king's name and sealed with his ring can be revoked. That is how authoritative a decree is. So we have to know our sphere and know our authority. So look a bit at intercession. What's that? Gap fillers. Have you gone to London Tube where you say, mind the gap? So, person like me, if I don't be careful, I might just slip into the gap. Nah, just kidding. Well, so intercessors are literal gap fillers. They stand in the gap so that the other person is strong enough to stand and fight for themselves. So Winston Churchill, parliamentarian Winston Churchill, spoke against Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain's appeasement of Adolf Hitler as Germany conquered one nation after another. At that time, Germany had already conquered one nation after another, but parliamentarian Winston Churchill was bold enough to speak against Prime Minister Neville. He was just busy, he could see the warfare. But this Prime Minister is just busy trying to appeal to this Adolf Hitler. But he knows who the enemy is. Are you bold enough to speak when you should speak? So Winston Churchill turned history for the freedom of Europe with the words he spoke. Intercessors are like that too. We turn history with the words that we speak. We are the gap fillers. Let's look at some biblical example. Genesis 18, Abraham asked God, will you spare Sodom? God was ready to kill all the Israelites, and Moses reminded God of his own love and forgiveness. Aaron and Hur held out Moses' hand, and Joshua overcame the army with the sword around sunset. In Nehemiah 4, the walls of Jerusalem became secure through filling in the gap. So this is really a biblical picture of intercession. We are the gap fillers so that the enemy cannot penetrate through. So intercession allows us to stand in the gap for the purpose of God, but it is also a way to plead and make requests on behalf of another person. So intercession, like prayer, is twofold: interceding to God on behalf of another person and standing in the gap against satanic attack. Apostle Werner has said, prayer is you having that conversation with the Lord, it's praying for yourself. But intercession is praying on behalf of another person. So another aspect of intercession is that we also clear the way through prayer for God to act. We must keep recycling back into prayer, meaning pray and pray again, intercede and intercede again. Otherwise, we're going to just be one hit wonder. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you don't hit. Do you want to have answered prayers all the time? Keep going back to prayer. Keep going back to intercession. Because oftentimes we don't realize that sometimes when we go to a place of intimacy, yes, it is inevitably fruitful. There was an explosion of prayer, but it's just that one-time hit wonder. So do you want just God answering your prayer for that one time? Or do you want to see consistently Him answering your prayers? We don't want to just see one cycle. We want to see continual God's blessing cycle in our life. So we are called to be something before we do anything. So let's learn to develop that spiritual disciplines that is needed to do greater territorial gain. What do we do with our own personal time? Are you drawing near to the Lord? The Lord says, draw near to me and I will draw near to you. Are you coming to that place of intimacy with the Lord? So the renewal of the ecclesia will depend on the renewal of our prayer life. The powers of the world to come are at our disposal if we will make time for quiet times, for fellowship and communion with Jesus in prayer. And that is what our Lord's supreme yearning desire is. Draw near to the Lord. Draw near to the Lord. Come on, everyone. It is good to pray. So that ends the session today. Now everyone can pray.
Also, today we don't have time for prayer ministry, but we welcome you all to join our Bible study because that is the platform for everyone to gain prayer support, and you learn all the stuff that Yehu say, how to exercise your spiritual gift, and join our intercessor class. I just feel that some of you might have procrastination issue. Champions have given us 4 tips to not put off. Like some of you keep saying, maybe I wait until I have time. I only join you all for Bible study, for the ministry team. I feel that this is the time you need to decide to not put off anymore. How many of you plan to read 10 apostolic prophetic books, but you never finish one book? So I speak finishing anointing to every one of you. You have to finish the book, especially a time to advance. I challenge everyone, you must finish it. So Champions have given us 4 tips. First, make a list. Make a list of the things you want to accomplish for tomorrow, each night before you sleep. Second, prioritize them. Third, you can start with the first and then you move to the next and take action on the list. The last one, but not the least, you need to do the review and adjust the list each night. I'm sure if you are willing to follow this tip, you can really deal with this procrastination issue. And do you know that we need to bear the great consequences of procrastination? Our task, the Lord has called us. We need to bear the consequences. There is a huge consequences because it will cause your destiny have been delayed. So it's really no joke. Let's deal with this procrastination issue in this season. And everyone, I bless everyone, you can finish it well. So Apostle Simon, do you have any announcement? No more? Okay. So feel free to leave the meeting and welcome to continue to join us. Yay, today we have the most participants to join our meeting. We have 60 participants.